Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of May the 15th, 2016. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This week, we have got all the action pretty much happening towards the end of the week. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a sleeper. This happens once in a while where we will have an extended period of time, a course of a week, where we won't have a lot of major celestial conversations taking place. So what happens during those times is a couple of things. One thing that happens is, generally speaking, it is the more longer term, dominant, more powerful celestial conversations that start to come to the forefront. And at the same time, because it isn't these other personal planets kind of getting our attention, it is the moon that becomes more dominant. Now, the moon is changeable. The moon is emotional as well. So there's a certain fluidity there, but also not always a lot of certain energy. And considering the fact that over the course of this week, it will be Mercury that slows down to a halt and starts to move direct, pretty much in tandem within hours of the full moon that happens at the very end of this week. Well, it does suggest that there's going to be a lot that is coming forward. It may not necessarily mean that much in the bigger picture, but it will ultimately lead to a breakthrough, a much needed breakthrough. And once we get to next week, we will notice energies shift dramatically. We will notice ourselves moving forward in clarity and in purpose, and a certain mind level determination that right now, this week, will start on a level of heart and on a level of security and emotion. So what's happening this week is the moon is essentially moving through what is called in astrology. Now, I'm going to try not to get too technical here. It is a little bit of a little bit of an astrology lesson, but essentially the chart, the sky, if you will, when we're learning about houses, when you're a student of astrology and you're learning about how the sky is divided and to understand the 12 different parts of the sky called houses of the sky, as part of learning and as part of understanding more deeply, we have different ways of grouping the different houses in the sky, the 12 houses in the sky. So what is happening now is the moon will be activating what's called the third quadrant. So if you take the signs and you divide them into 4 groups, right, sort of one after the other, the first 3 signs, and then the second 3 signs, the third 3 signs, the fourth 3 signs, it's the third 3 signs where the moon is going to be particularly dominant this week, moving through those signs this week for the most part. And particularly dominant because there is a full moon at the very end of the week. So we're talking about early this week. Yes, the moon starts off with in the sign of Virgo, but pretty much moving through that third quadrant throughout the week, having major conversations through that third quadrant, while the moon is moving through the sign of Libra, the sign of Scorpio, and then the full moon at the end of the week in the sign of Sag. So what this is the quadrant that is the social part of the sky. This is where we start to understand ourselves in relation to other people. So up until then, the first 2 quadrants, right? Again, not wanting to get too technical here, too much into an astrology lesson, but the first 2 quadrants there's a strong focus on self. It's about your own experience as you're developing and learning and growing in the world. It is during this time, and especially when the moon is moving through more social parts of the sky, that in general, and especially collectively, we have to consider our relationships with others. Now, that could be other nations, that could be other cultures, that could also be in our own personal lives with other people as well that we interact with. And so what's happening this week is we've got the moon mainly moving through particularly social areas of the sky where we're having to consider other perspectives. And at the same time, it's really the moon that is guiding a lot of this interaction. And then you add to this full moon that acts as this crescendo of sorts at the very end of the week. It's at the very beginning of the sign of Sagittarius, and it is happening with Mars in the sky. Now, what is also very special about this full moon, and I spoke about this for just about every sign in the monthly horoscope, so I would invite you to have a look at that again. But essentially, this is going to be the rare phenomenon of, like, normally there's a full moon one per sign per year. When your full moon comes along, that's it, right? That's your time of fruition, of culmination, of realization. It's a time of bringing things to a close, of being grateful, of seeing things as they are, of being honest with yourself. All of these are strong themes whenever there's a full moon, and we experience these themes in at least one area of life. But what's happening this year is that we are going to have this full moon take place, and then 28 and a half days later, next month, we will have another full moon, but taking place at the very end of the sign of Sagittarius. So this is a very interesting phenomenon. It means it's like the universe is putting a spotlight for us on this energy. You add to this, Saturn is in this sign as well. Now, when I look at this and the fact that really the only major celestial conversation that this full moon is having is with Mars in the sky. All of this does suggest a week where there's going to be a lot of sensitivity, I gotta say, a lot of sensitivity, lots of sort of emotions on the surface. I would also say the sign of Sagittarius is a particularly political kind of energy, okay? So the fact that it's in a position that's very and particularly passionate with Mars. The fact that there's not a lot of like really, I'm not seeing Saturn being very activated this week, right? We don't have any major Saturn aspects happening this week. We don't have the kind of aspects, not even Venus aspects, right? The kind of aspects that would provide a sense of balance. For the most part, it's a lot of passion. And I gotta say, it's a lot of rhetoric as well, but nothing is certain, nothing is permanent. So I'm sharing this with you for a few reasons. Whatever arises now in our own life personally, but also collectively as well, whatever it is that arises is not going to be the final answer, the final decision, the complete picture. It is only sort of where we are right now as, things are being decided. I will put this out there. Right now we have the elections taking place, or the election process, right, is taking place right now in the US, has been for a while now. This week should be one where a lot of things are sort of being said in the media. A lot of emotions might be running pretty high. And, people tend to have pretty strong feelings where it comes to, what did they say? Like, if you want to get along, don't talk about religion or politics. I would really advise that now. I'm going to advise that. It's not that there isn't times that are very valuable. It's important to have that discourse as part of moving things forward and as part of understanding, and especially as part of understanding each other. I think the Sag energy ultimately is about understanding that there are familiarities and similarities throughout different ways of seeing the world. Ultimately, that Sag energy is about enrichment, which is a beautiful thing. However, it's very easy now to get caught up in things, and we'll notice people get very caught up in things that ultimately don't have any relevance, that ultimately are not going to matter in the bigger picture. So if you find, yourself getting really worked up, it's important to remember that, okay, all is not clear just yet, and things still need to move forward, and things need to move forward in a more grounded sense. So it'll be very easy right now. You'll see a lot of people sort of courting that energy, if you will, of passion for a whole bunch of different reasons. And it's a high. I do think so, that there is a certain buzz that comes, even when we don't like what we're hearing. There's a certain jolt that we get that moves us out of whatever else is in our lives, that moves us out of that and has us having other conversations that maybe ultimately, from a more balanced perspective, but also really given the sky, I do think that whatever takes place now, whatever rhetoric, whatever shenanigans, whatever like over the top kind of proclamations, ultimately it's going to mean very, very little in the bigger picture, if anything at all. And I do think we are going to start to see that in particular once we get into next week, because as we're approaching the end of the week, Mercury will be slowing to a halt and will pretty much for the whole planet, technically, if you're looking at your calendar, will go direct, what's called stationary direct, on the first day of next week, on Sunday. So like I said, I'll be here to talk about it even more then. But the fact that we have this energy playing out in this way does suggest pretty powerfully that we are slowly going to be starting to see things from a different perspective and slowly find our voice in the process. But in order to find our voice, we've got to go through more passionate channels. We've got to go through channels that ask us to consider other viewpoints and be willing to engage without taking things personal, even when it is the more personal that is being sort of touched on. And ultimately, look, this, I gotta say, this energy does also suggest this idea of wanting to push buttons because you can, right? Wanting to push buttons just for the sake of it. And so that's something also that we are going to want to watch. And as I said, it would be one thing if it was very consequential. It would be another thing if it really wasn't, and it really isn't. Mars is retrograde right now. And when Mars is retrograde, I personally think Mars retrograde is awesome because it helps us to get to a deeper level of honesty as to how we're using our energy. But also it ensures, like, look, Mars is god of war, right? Mars retrograde is not necessarily a time of, wars being started or being effective or, them fighting words, ultimately having a big effect in the bigger picture. So these are all things to remember with this sky. But again, passions will be strong. A lot of people are going to be like, I believe this. I believe this. And the thing is with beliefs is that ultimately they're not empirical. And if we're lucky, we evolve. If we're lucky, we are able to have experiences in life that encourage us or sometimes put us in a position where we have to learn to be compassionate. We have to learn to see things from other perspectives. And even when that process comes about in ways that are challenging, there's also something, some wisdom that's playing out there, some beautiful wisdom that's playing out there that ultimately shows us that it is through feeling things, all kinds of things, a variety of things, and being honest about what we're feeling, where true compassion can begin, because then there's an understanding that, okay, I'm feeling all these things and maybe I'm feeling things that aren't so great and I don't want that for anyone else. That is the leap. That is evolution. That is evolution of consciousness. And I think that more and more of us on the planet are moving in that direction of making that leap. Instead of unconsciously repeating patterns, I think we can see this if we look back at the course of human history, documented human history certainly, but particularly if we look back at human history over the last, let's say, 250 years or so, right? We could say since the late 1700s with the discovery of Uranus, really that all of a sudden was this big mirror where we're ready to expand. We're ready to know what it means to be human differently. We're ready to recognize that which is love and wisdom more deeply and more expansively in everyone and everything, and that includes within ourselves as well. And since then, I think that humanity has been growing and growing in consciousness, and there is value in trusting that, even when things don't seem that way, even when it seems like people are pushing your buttons and you're just trying to, go shopping and someone's asking you questions, or, even when it seems like that, or you're hearing something and you just feel, oh God, you're so wrong. That's so not right. How could you say that? You're feeling that stuff. On a sense, it's very natural, but also on another sense, it's important to keep things in perspective. What really matters and what really doesn't? Where is it that your beliefs serve you in being a person who lives up to your ideals and lives up to your values? And where is it that your automatic responses are not? That is part of the gift of this sky. We are going to have, towards the end of the week, the sun will move into the sign of Gemini. It'll be happy birthday Geminis out there, all the Geminis out there. And immediately the sun will get involved in this full moon as we approach the end of the week, with Mercury standing still, with Mars, a retrograde Mars right there. It can be a time of a powerful realization that serves as a jumping off point to being a different person in the world, being more of who it is that you truly desire to be. And really all it takes is that one moment, that one signal, that one split second of decision, of intention, that you're going to use absolutely everything in your life, that we will use every single emotion and experience to in some way, to the best of our ability, move us towards greater love and greater wisdom as a collective and individually as well. That small intention, when you get up and you take that half second to set that intention, can make all the difference for all of us. Well, thank you so much for watching this introduction. I'm truly so grateful for it. Please like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up. It does mean so much. And I love our interactions. Please keep them coming. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, and the YouTube comments as well. Sometimes I'm asked questions that are a little bit more personal that have to do with your unique situation. If that's the case, please do consider a personalized horoscope where I can do just that. Look at your unique birth chart and answer your specific questions. And you can learn about that on my website, nadiyashah.com. I do want to say lately, a lot of orders have been coming through for the life purpose reading. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the trust out there. I'm so very grateful for it. Thank you also to so many people out there who reached out, who have continued to reach out for the course of the last 2 weeks, as I found out and as I started sharing that Vanity Fair, French Vanity Fair. Thank you so much, French Vanity Fair, for naming me one of the top 12 astrologers on the planet today. I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for how many of you have been reaching out in support, in love and encouragement. It has been tremendously meaningful to me and also very healing for me as well. And I think this is part of how in my own life, in my own personal journey, Mars retrograde right now is blessing my journey in helping me to be grateful. And you guys are a big, big part of that. You bless me so much in a million ways every day. And I could never express it enough. I could never find the right words to say how much it has meant to me and how much I am changed for the better as a result of these moments that I get to share with you. And of course, everything I do, absolutely everything, is to affirm that the universe is wise and loving. I believe that. I do believe so much that ultimately you bring yourself to the sky. Whoever you are is going to resonate with that sky. And it is your perspective that is going to determine how you interpret what ultimately is a symbol that is asking to be expressed. And it is ultimately a process of poetry. It takes a poetic mind frame, a symbolic mind. It's been called in academic terms, the symbolic mind. I talk about this in my book as well, Astrology Realized, that it takes that symbolic mind to interpret the sky. But ultimately that mind and who you are, everything that you've interpreted about your life and understood about who you are up until that moment, that ultimately determines what comes forward, what words you choose, what meaning you find. And for me personally, when I look at the sky, I see us all collectively moving towards greater love and greater wisdom, towards the greater embodiment of greater love and greater wisdom. It's who we are ultimately. And I do believe that the human impetus, if you will, is about all of us recognizing that in ourselves and each other and owning that energy so that we can expand that energy that much more, because that is the energy that is of everyone and everything, that is of love, that is of the divine. It has a million different names that I like to call love and wisdom. I believe that's who we are at our essence. And I do believe that astrology is this beautiful practice that helps me and has helped me in some very challenging times in my life. Going way back, I remember going through some very challenging times, and I would look at the chart and I would just know that this is a cycle and that it's okay, and that even though it hurts, there's some beautiful wisdom playing out here. And so now being here with you, I feel like I'm living that wisdom in a million ways, you know, and for that, for allowing me to live that mission in the world, I am forever grateful. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me that, that little bit of self-reflective emotional indulgence. I'm grateful for that as well. So how all this wonderful stuff this week, this wonderful active sky speaks to you and your sign is coming up right now. Hello, fabulous Aries. This week we have got this full moon happening, supercharged up, passionate full moon happening with your ruling planet in tow, right with your ruling planet in the sky. And all that stuff I said in the intro about, checking ourselves and about looking at what we value and making sure that we're living in alignment with what we truly value. Well, that becomes 10 times more relevant for you. It is going to be a time of some soul searching in a sense, but it is going to be your interactions with others that serve as the catalyst for some of that soul searching to take place. Now, whatever answers you think you find now, whatever clarity you think comes now, keep in mind that, and this is true for all the signs out there, anything you think you know at the end of the week, know that the full moon that takes place next month, late next month, will add a further burst of understanding and clarity to what takes place for you now. So it's not final answers by any means taking place now, but there is a personal sense of understanding that will serve you well, not only now, but very possibly for many, many years to come. That's what happens when there's a full moon that is happening with your ruling planet in the sky. It truly is a powerful time at that. Also with this, and as I look at this, this is about really getting clear on what matters and what doesn't, getting clear on the next adventure, getting clear on what change you're kind of dying to make, what you're ready to move on from so that you can manifest even bigger and better things. All of that becomes part and parcel with this energy. What I also really love about the sky now on a heart level, it is about ensuring that you are living true to your personal values about how you want to be in the world and how you want to be in love, how you want to be when you interact with each other and interact with others in the context of partnership, in the context of love. Now, if you are in an established bond, this can be a very powerful time. I mean, this can be a time of a lot of honesty, yes, but I'm seeing this as a time that will either propel you that much closer and unite you with this person deeply, or will be a time when you say, okay, transformation has to happen right now. Something's got to change right now, and deeply so, because you're getting honest with each other about what you value and what you don't. It's one of those things where maybe if you've kind of accepted this is how this person is, this is what they believe, and it's really different than me. Now it comes to this point where it's like, wait a minute, I really don't want that life which I thought I wanted then. That doesn't resonate with who I've become or my values. If that becomes the case, or one of you says that, then this can be a really powerful time of making a clear choice to move yourself forward. But remember, it's not final by any means, especially considering what's taking place next month. So let the insights, understandings come forward. If they happen to be like very consequential, let them come forward. And know that there's still lots of room to work a lot of things out. If you are in the right bond, this is where you start to see even more that this person gets me. This person understands what it is ultimately that I really believe and where I really want to go. And that can add this whole other level of commitment and passion to the bond. If you're open to meeting someone new now, it is going to be that person who's really different, that has the potential. I mean, a short interaction now with someone who sees the world very differently, or maybe from a very different background than yourself, who has the potential to just show you a whole other way of understanding yourself and understanding the world, a whole other way of being present with you and what your heart truly desires. And also ultimately what it is that you truly desire from love, from passion, and in fact, from your entire life. Hello, fabulous Taurus. This week we have got the sun leaving your sign, Mercury slowing down to a halt in your sign. Plus we've got all this energy taking place in a part of the sky for you that has to do with deep transformation. It has to do with understanding where it is that you're ready to be reborn in some way. Now, whatever answer you find now will not be the final answer, so just know that. As part of the bigger picture, you will be realizing and revealing more as we move into next month. So just know that, but it still makes it a very important time, particularly in light of the fact that Mercury will be slowing down. I think of all the things happening in the sky, yes, a full moon, very important, very powerful. But it is going to be that Mercury slowing down that is going to speak more powerfully to you than it might of other signs. Those of you born right around the 5th of the month will feel this energy more than most, but all Taurians out there will be having a moment of truth, a moment of understanding, a moment of what really matters, a moment of who you are, like that understanding, okay, this is no longer who I am. So it's not just about who you are today, which is part of that personal clarity as Mercury stands still in your sign. But it's also about understanding what is, done and over. I remember this song, if I may say. There was this song years ago by T.I. and Justin Timberlake that tells you something about my sometimes musical taste. Justin Timberlake and T.I. did this song called Dead and Gone, and basically it is a song of personal transformation. It's basically a song that talks about how this person was a certain way, but that is like a whole other person. It's no longer who they are anymore. And they're recognizing that, and they're owning that they no longer are who they were. And that is part of what I'm seeing, a realization for you now, but also very possibly a demonstration. You get to live it, you get to show it, you get to demonstrate it. And there's also an element here of realizing what's really essential, what really matters and what really doesn't, and even what never did. There's also a financial element to this. I do think this is going to start a process of some financial talks, some financial possibilities where it comes to grants, loans, bursaries, insurance payments, tax returns, benefits you may qualify for. Again, whatever comes forward now might come forward rather quickly. And there might even be a little bit of a surprise element to it. And yet, things are not going to be totally clear and totally moving forward for a few weeks. So just know that, let yourself be open to wherever it is and however it is that the universe wants to bless your life with prosperity, knowing that there's so much more from where that came from. When it comes to matters of heart, matters of love, if you are in an established bond, this can be a time of some changes or possible changes to the income of your partner. But also, I think this is also a realization of what matters and what doesn't. And maybe you've been giving energy to something or some matters that don't really matter. Maybe you've been indulging in energy with your partner that you don't want to carry into the future. Well, this is going to be your chance to be honest about the transformation, the deep transformation that you are going through and your desire to experience that transformation within the bond. For others of you out there, though, I do think this is a time where you understand that the love that you have is something that is true, something that is very essential. Again, this essential element, not superficial, but it's something that at its core is good and strong. And that should fill you with a sense of energy and a sense of motivation to do all you can to make it last that much longer, to make it that much stronger. For others of you out there, if you're open to meeting someone new, this sky in general, it has, it's very not superficial for anybody right now, but especially for you, if you should meet anyone new now, there is like sort of this alchemical moment, right? Like one moment, it can be just like flirting. It could be just like a casual conversation. But it really gets you to make a shift within. It's like you see something that much more deeply to the root of the thing and realize what you don't want to carry into who it is that you hope to become more and more of. That ultimately, that moment, regardless of where it leads or doesn't lead, that moment alone is a great gift. Hello, fabulous Gemini. This week we've got this beautiful, beautiful energy that is beginning in your opposite sign. The party is starting for you by the time we get to the end of the week for a few different reasons. So one is, of course, the sun will move into your sign. So happy birthday month for all Geminis out there. And that's happening late in the week. The second thing is, as we approach the end of the week, your ruling planet Mercury will be slowing to a halt and will technically go forward, next week, Sunday, right off the top of the week. One of the first things that's happening is that Mercury going forward. But you will be definitely feeling it as we move towards the end of the week. You'll be feeling yourself preparing for a shift. And all of this is that much more highlighted by the fact that the full moon is happening in your opposite sign. So whenever there's a full moon in your opposite sign, it means that it means that there's at least one other person there who's helping you to understand something that much more deeply about yourself. So we've got this full moon happening, and it's a very passionate one at that. But there's a certain isolating quality to this, a certain initiating quality to this, not necessarily the completion that we're going to see a month from now. So if you are open to meeting someone new, if there's someone that you're interested in, and been trying to make a connection happen, let me just say this, with this sky, and given the position of Mercury, given that Mars is retro as well, if a connection happens, it may end up being just a very isolated one moment. It may be that it's going to need a full month to fully realize the significance of, or the deeper implications for you and your learning and your understanding. It might need a full month for you to come to that. But if anything is initiated now, and look, I'll be honest, when I look at this, the type of scenario I see happening as a possibility is, someone you haven't seen in a while and you get a call, 2 a.m. maybe, okay? If you get a 2 a.m. call from someone that you hardly ever see, just know that whatever you decide in that moment doesn't mean it's going to increase the frequency of how much this person enters your life. And that might be totally good, right? That might be totally okay. But I have a feeling as I look at this, and again with Mars retro, that there is another intention on your part, some other truth that you need to understand about yourself through another person. And so you may say that you're totally okay with things a certain way. Oh yeah, I get it. I understand what's happening here. This is a pattern, whatever. But there might be some deeper part of you that is, not necessarily understanding that. And this can go different ways, okay? So this could be you, right? It could be you that maybe really feels a connection with this person, wants it to be something more meaningful than it is, and then what is being offered in the moment. It could be the other way around. It could be that you are really trying to, hold back, and you are thinking you're being clear, and then these subtle clues are coming through that are saying to you, okay, no, I don't think that, I think that this person is not understanding that I'm trying to stay distant. These are the types of scenarios that can come up if you're open to meeting someone new and with this given sky. There can be an element with this, I gotta say, there can be an element with this, not necessarily of misunderstanding, but just misreading signals, and then sort of realizing after, a little bit of time has passed, realizing, okay, there are other layers to this, there's something else here. And again, what I mean by that is you may think your intention is one thing, but then, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours later, you realize, okay, no, there's something else, whether it's for you, whether it's for that other person. And ultimately, this is meant to help you. You're learning right now with Mars moving back and forth in your opposite sign, with the first of 2 full moons, the next one taking place next month. And this is about you understanding something about yourself as you relate to another person. So this is very powerful in itself. If you are in an established bond, okay, so if you're connected to somebody already, this energy is likely to manifest very differently. This is likely to highlight or expose wherever there are some frustrations. It doesn't look like anything's going to be done about them necessarily, but there's going to be some personal truth, there's going to be some self-honesty, and wherever there are or have been some frustrations, you're going to start to at least recognize it, get to the root, get to the root cause, if you will, of what is really going on. And I think a lot of Geminis out there might actually surprise themselves. Like, if it's been, you didn't realize it, like, oh, actually, you know what? I've kind of been, like, I didn't realize, but I'm actually really not happy. That could be part of it. It could be another way. It could be that, you know what? I think my partner's really not happy. And then it could be another way as well, where it could be, I have every reason to be happy. Why am I not? If there's something left unsaid, if there's some truth about yourself that you haven't been looking at within the bond or about that other person, this is where you're going to start to feel it. This is where that clarity is going to start to come. This is where you start to realize what it is that maybe you haven't wanted to look at before. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's something so bad or something. And ultimately might be something that is nuanced and very personal, but no less significant at that. It is a time of transformation in your relationship. Now, that may happen immediately, the chances are that there'll be a moment of awareness, and then you'll put it to the side for a little bit until more powerful awarenesses and conclusions come once we get you a little bit further down the road with the second full moon in the same part of the sky set to take place next month. Hello, fabulous Cancer. This week we've got this full moon. So much is about this full moon. It's very potent but very isolated energy that's taking place in the late part of the week. And this full moon is happening in a part of the sky for you that has to do with work. It has to do with the workplace. So if you are self-employed, okay, this can be a really great time of understanding that much more clearly what type of clients, what type of work projects that you want to be working on and that you want to attract into your life. What is it that you want to give your energy to, your very valuable energy that's going to help you in terms of prosperity, of course, but also in terms of self-empowerment, personal satisfaction, which is a big motivation to how people end up being self-employed. A part of the motivation tends to be wanting a sense of agency in your own life. So what do you need to do to get it? And what do you need to work on to get it as well? There is an element with this energy that has to do with understanding what really deserves your attention, what's really going to matter, but also is going to matter on a level of self in terms of being happy with what it is that you are producing, being happy what you're working on as well. So there's that element to this. Now keep in mind, it is at this part of the sky right now that Mars is retro. And so this can bring back clients that you've had in the past. They'll come back around right about now as well with this full moon. It might be a little bit urgent, right? It might be a little bit like, okay, please, I need your services right now, or you did this for me before, can you do an update? So regardless of what it is that you are doing, you are offering, this can be a time when very quickly clients come up, and it can end up being a very rewarding and empowering, albeit brief, exchange at that. For those of you who are actually working within an organization, it's the organization itself that is going to be particularly busy. And I gotta say, there's, it's almost like I'm seeing one dramatic moment, someone having some sort of a display, if you will. And you can decide how much you want to get involved or not. It looks ultimately like it doesn't have a lot of consequence in the immediacy, so just keep that in mind. If it's you that ends up having the moment, which is possible, it may be you, maybe a coworker, but if it's you that ends up having a moment where a lot of very strong feelings arise, keep in mind you might change your mind, okay? So that's okay too. But normally there are steps we have to take to change our mind, right? Like we have to talk it out with somebody, or otherwise seek to understand it, or seek to make meaning of whatever transpires. Maybe through whatever transpires, you realize how you could be doing things differently, doing things better, or how you really are ready to do something totally different or go in a whole other direction. So these are all different layers with which this energy can be realized. Also, in terms of your health, you'll be paying more attention there and identifying the root cause of whatever it is that you can address so that you can feel that much better. So there's a level here of self-honesty, of getting to the root of a situation. And that really is, I think there's also an element here that has to do with pulling out the weed from the root. So that, you could take that very literally as well. But if you take that more figuratively, if there has been anything that's been bugging you on a level of health, this is where you understand what it is, you understand what you need to do, and you do it. So you address the problem at its root so that you can get rid of the problem. So that can end up being very empowering. Where it comes to matters of heart, matters of love, there is so much that is happening, yes, in the workplace. I think that's going to get a whole lot of your attention, particularly as we approach the later part of the week. However, your friendship area, okay, is still pretty lit up this week. So it is in the area of friends that you will likely find yourself wanting to give attention. There may even be, if there's been anything that has been a source of tension, where you've had to work things out, or you've been sort of, up in the air and kind of having to figure out how you feel about a certain person or a certain situation, this is a time where, at the very least, either you'll move forward in terms of your dynamic with this person, you'll find the resolution, But sometimes that resolution is within yourself. It is within you, and it is about you, not necessarily about the other person. So sometimes, yes, you can sort of have that face-to-face and resolve issues and move forward together into the future. Sometimes, not so much. Sometimes it's more about acceptance. Sometimes it's more about, yeah, it's good how things worked out, and it's okay. That person might have been really important at one point, not so much anymore, and it's all fine. It's all good. And there can still be love there, right? Regardless of what transpired. But at least there's a level of acceptance of where you've changed and now you are in a different place and a different direction. So that's what happens when we have Mercury moving it retro in this part of the sky and then standing still, preparing to go direct. It's like you get that clarity and you find that your own emotional responses, your own thoughts around the situation are not what they were, and they can end up being a lot more clear and a lot more conducive for your happiness at that. So we have that happening in the friend zone. Now, if that friend in any way was, had an opinion about or spoke about what was happening with you in terms of your romantic life, whether within an established bond, whether in terms of your dating desires and habits, if that friend had an opinion that was part of what, caused you to sort of say, okay, whoa, whether they were doing something in love that you didn't want to emulate, whether you were doing something that they, didn't want to emulate, regardless, that can be a part of this, at the very least, that allow you to understand that it's not about you. Now, if it is the friend who had become love, or there was some entanglements there, which is very possible. Venus is moving through this part of the sky as well. So if there were any kind of layers to this that were taking place with a friend, then this can be a time when you sort of reach again that level of acceptance, that level of understanding. What was is what needed to be, as part of your understanding that you're now starting to move forward and starting to move in more positive directions. It will be next week that Venus will change signs. So you do have this little bit of time if you've been sort of flirting with the idea of being with a friend as more than just a friend. You've got a few more days to see if that has any viability. But also remember, Mercury standing still will go direct sort of the late part of the week and into early next week. And so what that suggests is you may very well change your mind. So keep that in mind as well. And those of you in an established bond, as I look at the sky, it says something to me about wanting to have other people in your life, not wanting to make one person your entire universe, your entire world. As much as you may love this person, there's going to be a yearning now for greater purpose, for being useful in the world, a desire to connect with all kinds of people, a desire to connect with your friends, and to keep those relationships viable and healthy. So there's a lot of beauty being played out here. There's a lot of wisdom being played out here where you're understanding one person cannot be your universe. If I may quote, remembering some of my classes from my undergrad days, Simone de Beauvoir. So Simone de Beauvoir was a feminist and a writer, very prolific, very influential way back in the day. And she talked about how we can, in relationships, make one person the supreme deity in our lives. And we come to this point where we realize, oh my God, this is not a God. This is just a human being. This cannot be the center of my life. And when you have that realization, sometimes, you get frustrated within the relationship where you come to that realization that, oh my God, I've made this person the center of my world, but they're just a human being and I can't get everything that I'm supposed to get or can get just from one person. I need to have other things happening in my life. And that tends to be sort of this jumping off point, where Simone de Beauvoir said, that jumping off point from where real love can start to take place, real partnership can start to take place, for all that historical, political implications there. And so I just remember that story because that is possible with a sky like this, where you realize like, wow, okay, this person has become way too much of my universe, and I love this person, and yet I need to have a more balanced and fuller life. And that is the beginning where real love can start to happen. Hello, fabulous Leo. This week we have got this amazing full moon happening late in the week in a super romantic part of your sky. And you add to this, Mars is there right with this full moon, adding passion and just an awakening on a level of body. And this is your experience in love. It's not necessarily about partnership or negotiation or working things out with another person like it is for the Geminis. For you, it's about your experience. What is your own feeling of your own awakening? This is about dating. This is about flirting. This is about remembering that there is more to love and more options to be had in love and more experiences to be had in love. So there's a very self-centered place from which the experiences in love will arise now. That doesn't make them any less valuable, any less meaningful. In fact, they can be tremendously meaningful for you. So we have this full moon taking place. And if you are open to meeting someone new, having a sort of chance and very passionate moment is very possible with this guy. But also with this energy, as I look at it, I mean, this is it's almost like, I said in the introduction, there's something that's almost like addictive to the energy this week. Like there's, when you get that rush, when you get that hit, there's an addictive quality to it. And that can be awesome sometimes, right? It reminds us we feel the butterflies and we feel sweaty palms and we feel all excited about things. And that can be a great thing. That can be a beautiful thing. But the thing is that those moments are not meant to be had like every single moment, every single day. Because if you do have them, they stop giving you that hit. They stop, and it's never like the first time, right? Anything that you try to get a hit off of. It's never like the beginning. Nothing ever is. And that's part of what makes you feel so alive, is the novelty, is the newness of it. So if you are open to meeting someone new, it is just this type of experience that can be welcomed into your life now. Now it will be next week and moving forward that things get more clear and more stabilizing energy comes into the picture. So it may not, like given this particular full moon, there's not a lot of stable energy with this full moon. It's quite a bit away from Saturn. So Saturn's not that much of a player, and it's more about that very passionate and that retrograde, deeply passionate energy of Mars that is meeting this full moon in the sky. So that is one possibility of how this energy could work out. If you are in an established bond, there is going to be that desire to have those moments, to go back, if you will, right? To be like, I want to remember why I fell in love with you. That type of conversation can be had at this time. And there will be a desire just to experience more joy in general, and particularly with this person. So this can be great in terms of reigniting, right? Retrograde Mars, reigniting passion. That can be a really great way to use this energy. But also keep in mind that this can be a time when you're looking at what your expectations were in love, how you always thought it would be a certain way. And especially once you're with somebody for a while, it changes, right? It becomes more about seeing something more honest, and it becomes a lot more about the routines, the day-ins and day-outs of being with this person. So where is that disconnect, and how do you feel about it? How can you bridge that gap? You may actually get some very powerful moments to do just that, some very rewarding moments to do just that. Elsewhere in the cosmos, we are going to have Mercury at the top of your sky, slowing down to a halt and preparing to go direct by the time we get to the very end of the week, kind of simultaneously with this full moon. And so this part of the sky of the full moon also has to do with a sense of self-actualization, creative fulfillment. And we've got this Mercury also in a very potent position right around the time of this full moon. So it does suggest that another way this energy can be experienced, if you look at it together, can be experienced in the realm of wanting a creative project to take off in a career realm. Very possible for you with a sky like this, and very possible for this to serve as a major point of clarity as to where it is you are going to value, whether it's your creativity, whether it's your art, whether it's a personal sense of fulfillment, a personal sense that you're doing what it is that you're truly meant to do. How can you align that with a real sense of achievement? Well, it very well may be that experiences show up for you now that show you the way. Hello, fabulous Virgo. This week we've got this full moon happening late in the week at the very bottom of your sky. Now this is the first of two full moons. The second one will take place next month, 28 and a half days later. So it'll take place in the later part of next month. And so this makes it a particularly important time, along with this Mercury retrograde that we are going to be culminating as we approach the later part of the week and start the next. And this is especially important for you, both of these events, and the fact that they're taking place simultaneously, mainly because Mercury is your ruling planet. So whatever your ruling planet is going, so go you, right? It's your representative in the sky. And so we've got Mercury in this super potent position of standing still, preparing to change directions, a major shift in energy for you. Now, last week, Jupiter shifted, right? Jupiter started moving forward. And so already the Virgos out there have started to feel a shift within, where you start to understand what's worth focusing on. You start to understand where it is that your blessings lie, how you can cultivate them, what you can believe in, that you can believe in yourself, that you can have faith, that you can have hope, that you can have optimism and know that good things will come about. All of that is a benefit with Jupiter in your sign, and particularly Jupiter changing directions and going forward. But Mercury is you. And so now to have Mercury go direct as well, it's like you come into alignment. You feel like you start moving forward in terms of that more optimistic vision of your future that you know on some level that you deserve to have, that you believe that you can have. Absolutely you can. And you're learning how to do it. And actually when Jupiter's in your sign, you've got magic on your side. It's just that now you start, as we approach the end of the week, and this full moon is the jumping off point where you start thinking clearly, where you start seeing things with that much more clarity, and especially yourself, and seeing also what's happening on a level of mind and how that is serving you or not. Now keep in mind, with Mercury changing directions and with the nature of this particular full moon playing out, and I spoke in the monthly horoscope, so you may want to watch that, the implications of this in terms of home and what's happening on the home front. But when I look at this energy, there is this emphasis, particularly for you, as I spoke of in the introduction. You know, a lot of us are going to be looking at what our values are, what our beliefs are, especially around matters of like religion and politics, and how are we living with that, how are we not. All of those themes I talked about become especially important for you, given the position of Mercury, highlighting this energy in your own way, in your own life. So those themes that I discussed in the introduction of this video become that much more important for you now, because there's an almost personal level to how things are transpiring and how things are moving forward for you. Where it comes to matters of heart, matters of love, home is where the heart is this week. And so those of you in an established bond, this can be a time when you're feeling like you want to be comfortable on the home front. But also keep in mind with this energy that, you know, Mars is there. It's a very passionate kind of energy. And this can work great if you're channeling it passionately with the person that you love. This can be an amazing gift. But if you're not doing that, then this can manifest in terms of frustrations at home. So you want to watch that. If you're feeling like you want to be close to this person, then you can use this energy very much to your advantage to feel that greater sense of intimacy with this person that you love, to have that quiet time, to have that downtime, and prioritize that is a great way to use this energy. Those of you who are open to meeting someone new, I do think that this sky does suggest a desire to have someone that you can really feel comfortable with. And so just keep that in mind, because we also have Mercury retro and it's in fellow Earth sign. I have a feeling, I said for one of the signs a little bit earlier as well, it was for the Geminis also, Mercury is their ruling planet as well. Now, for the two of you, just be mindful of like intention, and especially where it comes to your romantic interactions. As I look at the sky, it could be that, you know, there's such a strong desire to have someone at home. If you are not in a bond, there might be a desire to, you know, you meet somebody new, you want them to move in right away. These are the types of scenarios that can play out, or you're getting to know somebody, or someone's just kind of been there in and out, but really, even though they're showing you very clearly that this is just nothing but casual to them, there's a part of you that may want that, and yet may also want someone who's willing to be with you and be at home with you, if you will. So that might be part of this energy as well. It's just really important to check in with yourself and be honest with yourself. It's interesting for you in particular, for you, those of your signs, for the Virgos out there. Chances are, once you get that balanced perspective, once you look at things in a more even-handed way, you will actually be completely fine with the decisions and the desires of anyone else in your life now, particularly if this is someone that you already have a connection with. So again, this only applies if you already have a connection with this person and it's been a little bit in the unknown, unlabeled kind of zone. It probably is just fine, but there might be just that little bit of a moment where you're like, oh, is it not? And then you come back to knowing what is true for you and knowing what your experiences with this person have shown you already. Hello, fabulous Libra. This week we have got this full moon happening in a part of the sky for you that has to do with your neighbors, your neighborhood, your cousins, your siblings. It has to do with you running around doing your thing, but there's also an element to this particular full moon that has to do with mind, like what's happening on a level of mind and how you're learning and how you're communicating, what you're communicating. Now, I want you to keep in mind with this, as I spoke about in the introduction, you may want to watch that because I said something about, having your buttons pressed and how you're going to react. As I look at the sky, it is very possible, because words are being highlighted with the energy for you now, it is very possible that through words, okay, all kinds of things start getting highlighted. And what I mean by that is you may communicate something and it just reaches a person a certain way that you didn't intend, or maybe you kind of did, but you didn't realize how strongly they were going to react. It's very possible now that you may express an opinion, particularly a religious opinion, a political opinion, a legal opinion. You may express one of these and get the kind of reaction, like a reaction that you think is way more than what was the intention or what you called for. You may be coming from a place of thinking like, oh great, we're going to interact, we're going to share ideas, and we're going to consider all these different perspectives, but someone else is being way sensitive in a way that you hadn't anticipated. That's possible now in your interactions in person, yes. In educational environments, learning environments, yes. In your neighborhood, with your neighbors, siblings, cousins, yes. But also online as well. Now, online, you never know what's going to just affect somebody. It does happen. So that's okay, right? It does happen. So it's just important for you to ensure that you're saying what you want to say. And also, the great thing also about online is that if you find yourself, if you're having people are reacting in a way and you don't really like it, the great thing is that you can either decide who's going to see it or you can not show it. All of these become possibilities. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have a right to say what you want to say. We all do, right? But there's also something valuable about thinking about how people are reacting to what you're communicating and what your intention is and what is coming back to you. Again, that's not to say that you aren't totally in the right. That may very well be the case, that you have a right to say it and you're saying something good, but it's getting a certain kind of energy returned to you. And then that may be like a little bit of a signal for you to check in with yourself and make sure that you're okay with that, make sure you're comfortable with that. But it's just that this particular week, I think that people are going to be particularly sensitive about these things in ways that may not necessarily be very healthy and ultimately won't even matter in the big picture. So if you have something to say, you have a platform to say it, and it's important to you, then maybe just time it a little better. Maybe not this week or maybe not late this week. Maybe give it a few more days in order to ensure that you're aligning yourself so that it's received with the intention that you hope it will be received. Now, it may also be that you desire to provoke. There might be something in you, a little something in you that wants to provoke. And this will be your opportunity to look at that and see, okay, do you like the reaction or not? You might be testing things out a little bit. But there are times to provoke that can actually create really positive outcomes. I just don't think that this particular full moon is it. But that doesn't mean you can't say what you want. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy interacting with people of all kinds out there in the online universe, of course. Those of you, when we look at love, those of you who are in an established bond, because there's such a strong focus now on words, I just want you to watch your words. I want you to watch what it is that you're saying, so that you're saying what it is that you truly desire to say. And just have that little bit of an intention that you're going to speak from a place of love and understanding, and really compassion is such a big deal now. So what that means, what does compassion mean? It means to think about how you would feel, right? To make sure that you're saying what it is that you would be okay hearing, and to consider how the other person might take what you say. And so the words, it's one thing, right? But if you know that it pushes your partner's buttons, maybe don't go there just now. Might be a good bet for you, because it seems that if you do go there, there's no outcome, right? It's just there's just this ball of energy that has nowhere to go. And so instead of having that then hanging around the relationship, instead get clearer about what outcomes you want, what your intention is, and find that right moment to speak in a way that ultimately you would be okay being spoken to. Try not to get too caught up in the passions of a particular moment and just say whatever, because then that can lead to like a sense of regret. And that's something that you definitely do not want. And there's no need for it. Really, there's no need for it. Things can go amazingly well. You're a Libra. You want things to go well. You like harmony, right? You like balance. And so it just takes that intention to ensure that balance, to ensure that what you say will help the balance of the given relationship. Those of you who are open to meeting someone new, remember, I always say, what you read on a screen, what you read in a text, ultimately it is about your interaction with that text. It doesn't always line up with the intention of the text. And this is something I remember seeing a comedy skit by Key and Peele about this very thing. It went, I think it was viral, or at least it was being passed around a lot a little while back, about how someone could say something over a text with this very pure intention, lightheartedness, and the other person takes it really seriously and thinks that it's this, huge insult, and that might not even be the case. So keep that in mind now as you're reading and as you're communicating, as you're reaching out to people, because that looks like a possibility now where your words are not taken with the pure-heartedness that maybe you had offered them. And so keep that in mind. And just ask yourself, before you send a message, before you send the text, you might be so in the moment, but before you do that, just ask yourself, how else could this be interpreted? That split second alone can ensure that you feel good about what you express. Hello, fabulous Scorpio. This week we've got a full moon taking place in a financial part of your sky. So money is going to very much be an area of focus for you, particularly as we move towards the later part of the week and as you head into the very end of the week and into next. So we have money as a focus now. As I look at the sky, we have Mars preparing to re-enter your sign. Well, not re-enter your sign right now, but will, before the month is out, will re-enter your sign. And so you're sort of preparing for this energy. It's almost like, okay, you feel it coming on. But are you going to do anything about it yet? Is anything going to change just yet? Not likely, but that's okay. It is going to be ultimately you looking at what you value that much more deeply, like what's worth giving your very valuable energy to, but also what defines you, especially in terms of things. So if you find yourself sort of, on certain websites, looking over certain, luxury item websites or whatever the case may be, or going to the store and checking out handbags for extended periods of time, that might be a relaxing thing right about now. But just know that, especially if it's something where it's a significant purchase in your eyes, right? If it's from your perspective, because money is relative. This is something that I do believe, this is something that I do say. A lot of money is attached to, and how you understand money is attached to an emotional frequency. So the way you feel when you have $10 in your hand, the way you feel is the way that someone else would feel if they had $100 in their hand, or someone else would feel if they had $1,000 in their hand. So it can really vary in terms of the person, or $1 in your hand, right? So it can really vary towards the person and the value that you ascribe, your history, the emotional way that you've interacted and understood money throughout your life, and in your present life as well. All of these are going to be factors now. So you get a chance to reflect on and consider and look at what's really going on deeper levels. And part of that might be like, sort of finding yourself unwinding, looking at, going over through the Versace website or something like that, whatever you're into. You might find yourself doing that a little bit, but ultimately this is about you looking at your own feelings around money and around prosperity, and looking at the value that you give to different things and your worthiness to have things or experiences, or fulfillment, however you define that. But there's also something to be said with this, with just expenses. I'm going to be very straightforward with you with this. Full moon, with this isolated Mars with it, an expense might come up. It might feel like a little bit of a surprise. It might raise emotions. Now, ultimately, this is to help you to understand your relationship with prosperity, your relationship with abundance. And also, I do think, as I look at this, and particularly for the water signs, but I think that this is going to say something to you about what is it that you desire to change? Where is it that you could be, whether it's doing more, doing something different, to have the kind of outcomes you want, and for you in particular around money, around prosperity. So this can also be a time when you realize what you don't want to do anymore, you realize what you want to be doing more of, you realize where it is that you have been giving a whole lot of energy without a whole lot of return, which is also an expense, right? Your time is a currency as well. And then if this is a very large, like a quote unquote bill coming up, large bill that you consider a large bill, this is going to be you looking at how you feel about that, but also your own feelings that, look, I got to make sure that when something like this comes up, it's not a big deal to me. It doesn't faze me. So trust the wisdom of what does come, because ultimately, remember, what comes up now is not going to have its full resolution until a month later, when we have another full moon in the same part of the sky. But also what arises for you now ultimately is part of putting you on the path towards greater prosperity. Mars right now is retro in this part of the sky. Will retro back into your sign, so you get to look at yourself and focus on yourself a little bit more. Before Mars will go direct a little bit later this summer, and then you feel like you're fully ready to deal with and handle and implement some of the amazing financial lessons that ultimately are about you creating, experiencing, and living with a sense of greater prosperity in your own life. Where it comes to matters of heart, when it comes to matters of love, we have got Mars preparing to re-enter your sign. Again, not happening just yet, but what we do have happening, which is a different energy than Mars, is Mercury. Mercury in your opposite sign. Mercury in your opposite sign now is preparing to shift gears, and will shift gears towards the very end of this week and very beginning of next week. So of course I'll be here to talk about it then, but you will be feeling this energy now. If you are open to meeting someone new, or there's likely, because of what's been happening in your opposite sign lately, someone in your periphery, you're learning about yourself and what you want in love, this is where some of the major lessons can start to come in, particularly as we move towards the later part of the week. So where does your self-image and your self-esteem fit into your experience in love? This is going to bring that clarity. But also just on another level, because Mercury is messages and communications, this can be you hearing from or connecting in some way with someone who's sort of been a little bit in and out of your life. What you decide to do with that, totally up to you. We do have this full moon happening that's like hyper in passion, but then the passion's not really going anywhere. So it's a very isolated, like a moment of energy. And so however you decide to use that, completely up to you. But this can be sort of somebody sort of showing up again. As I said before, and I've been saying to you, if you break up with somebody right about now, you won't stay broken up. Especially true for the Scorpios and the Capricorns out there. Chances are you won't stay broken up. This is where the remembrance of, or another message, or some other clarity comes through as to what was really going on with that person. If you found yourself in that situation where things kind of hit a little bit of a bump with somebody that you were getting to know, this is where that further information starts to come through right around the time of this full moon, as I said, at the end of this week and into the early part of next week. Those of you who are in an established bond, there's a desire now with this energy to be light, to feel free, to feel like life is joyous, to feel like even a sense of adventure. And if you feel that you've gotten to too much of a routine, this can be, I gotta say, some drama being stirred just for the sake of something interesting happening, just for the sake of having something to talk about and something to do, something to feel if you haven't in a while. And this ultimately is an energy that you can channel in a whole lot of different ways. But if you recognize it for what it is, then you can find a sense of fun and fulfillment with the person that you love. That doesn't necessarily involve needing to, kick up some strong feelings about things that ultimately, perhaps, in the bigger picture, might not even be that important. Hello, fabulous Sagittarius. This week, we have got a full moon late in the week in your sign. This is huge, okay? This is so important and so significant at that. Having a full moon in your sign really makes you the center of attention, the center of the party. And what a party it is. Mars is right there with you, but the thing is, nothing else is happening. No other connections are being made in any kind of significant way. As I look at this particular energy, there is something to be said here about you having that sense of your own clarity, your own power, your own desires, the things that you are ready to change within yourself, in your heart and in your spirit. There's something to be said also of that, I am. That's what a full moon in your sign does. It makes you clear about who you are. It is about you. So that is a very powerful statement, right? The I am. Whatever you fill that in with, this is something, actually an idea that's been expressed by many, many spiritual teachers going way, way back. Most recently, one of the people, again, a lot of people talk about this, but I'm remembering some teachings of Dr. Wayne Dyer, who passed away not too long ago. But Dr. Wayne Dyer is one of those people also who talks about how important it is, however you fill in that blank, I am, fill in the blank, that determines your life, that determines your destiny, that determines what you manifest. When there's a full moon in your sign, it is that I am that becomes the focus, because it becomes about not only I am and who you want to be, but also based on who you know yourself to be, what have you manifested and how do you feel about it? It's a turning point moment, and particularly with Mars retro in your sign as well, with this full moon as well. It's one of those very important moments. Now, if you've been born or you were born in the very early days of your sign, so if you were born between the 20 and the 27, let's say, of your respective sign, this can be that much more of a powerful moment for you, an important moment for you, where you really feel yourself having that clarity, having that determination, getting fired up about not only who you want to be, but who you realize you have been and don't want to be anymore, which is just as powerful, if not more powerful at that. It's like some part of you is coming to full awareness so that you can decide what you're going to carry into your future. And a part of that means leaving a part of you behind, but you will do so gladly in order to empower yourself that much more to be honestly and authentically you. When it comes to matters of love, look, at very well maybe an attraction that kicks off this process. Could be as innocent as a flirtation, but that becomes part of what kicks you into gear, what serves as the catalyst towards your personal realizations. If you're in an established bond, it may very well be a moment with your partner. You find yourself being a certain way, and you realize how much you're demonstrating a pattern that you don't want to be. You're behaving like someone that you don't want to be, that you never wanted to be, maybe someone that, an energy you connected to in very early life. Now you start to illuminate it. And it says some very powerful things about you and some very powerful things about who you want to be and what kind of love you want to have. What do you understand love as being sort of on an energetic level? And what does your mind and your heart tell you that love should be? Wherever there's that disconnect, you will understand your part in it and decide where it is that you're ready to do the work to move towards the love that you truly desire. Hello, fabulous Capricorn. This week we've got a full moon in the sign just before yours, which is great in itself. But what is also happening that is very important is the fact that Mercury will slowly be slowing to a halt by the time we get to the end of the week as it prepares to change directions, which it does at the very end of the week and at the very beginning of next week. So it's like something in you. Now, where Mercury is right now is a much more conscious area of the chart than where the full moon is taking place. That doesn't mean you won't feel the full moon. Absolutely you will. There's a lot of passion to it, a lot of determination to it, and a lot of that passion is so under the surface now. If there's anything that's been bugging you, if you haven't been able to put your finger on it, this is where you start to put your finger on it. This is where you start to understand. If there have been any kind of underlying frustrations you haven't wanted to look at, this is where you start to look at it. Now, this can manifest in terms of your work, in terms of family, in terms of home. This can manifest in terms of changes that you feel like you just keep getting in your own way with the changes that you desire to experience in love or in life or in career. So there's an element to this that is deeply personal. And at the same time, you are seeing where it is that you need to take ownership for your part. Now, this particular part of the sky where the full moon is taking place also has to do with, it's like other people keeping certain secrets or things that you keep from yourself. It's not secrets that you consciously keep. That's a different part of the chart, but more like things that you don't know, that you haven't been aware of before. Now they're coming to light, the light of the full moon, the healing truth of the full moon. They're coming to light. And this is about empowering you. This is about them coming up very passionately, possibly very suddenly. But having the awareness can be a big, big game changer. Having the awareness means that you understand where you've been and how you feel about it so that you can choose differently going forward. And that is what makes this particularly empowering. Now, where it comes to matters of heart may very well be part of how this energy manifests for you. Mercury will be slowing to a halt and changing gears over the course of this week and the early part of next week. So what this says is, this is about flirtation, this is about dating, it's about getting to know somebody. This is where clarity starts to come in. Wherever it is that maybe you have, like, I've been saying to you, if you break up with somebody, you might not stay broken up. This is where you may come to find out where and what was really going on, what secrets were taking place, what that really says about you, what the hidden dynamics are playing out right now. And ultimately, this is also about seeing your part in it, whatever it was that has transpired already. So there's that element to this particular energy. But this also can be, look, whether you are getting that final answer, getting that final word, deciding if you want to be with this person, motivated to be with them or not be with them, that truth itself, that clarity itself can really help you to propel you forward and put you in a very healthy place, a very good place. Ultimately, this is about truth that sets you free. And it isn't always what you think it is. In fact, I do think that there is going to be this, whoa, I didn't see that coming. I didn't realize that kind of element to this energy. Like, it's very possible that if something didn't work out, that person was keeping something very important from you. Could be part of this. They were keeping something very vital from you, and then you come to realize it and you say, okay, it's good that they sort of went away. It's not always a bad thing. But sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's you that comes to realize where it is that you were sabotaging things, and that allows you that clarity to decide what action is best for you to take. For others of you out there, this may not play out in terms of a dynamic that you've already sort of been going back and forth in. It's very possible though, because it is Mercury that's been going retro back and forth. We had a new moon in this area of the sky. So very well could be somebody already in the picture and you're getting further information and further clarity around that. That's the most likely scenario. Those of you in an established bond, if there's been anything kind of under the surface, anything kind of uncertain, anything that you wish you could put your finger on that maybe hasn't been feeling like it's going as smoothly as you would like, now you're going to get it. Now you're going to understand what has been happening within the dynamic, how you feel about it, and where you can experience a more heart connection, where you can do the work, have the conversation, have the right interaction, so that you feel that much more powerfully connected to this person that you love. But remember, it is about things you weren't aware of now coming up for your awareness. So keep that in mind as well. Ultimately, whatever comes forward seems to empower you. It seems to impassion you. And ultimately, that can only lead you to a stronger place. Hello, fabulous Aquarius. This week we have a full moon happening in a part of the sky for you that has to do with friendships. And we've got a Mercury retrograde happening as well at the very bottom of your sky. If anyone is going to be connecting with friends from times past, if anyone is going to be understanding friendships of before, allowing friendships to come to healthy closures, if anyone's likely to come across any kind of messages from people you knew back then that help you understand where you are right now in terms of your friendships and what you expect from friends, that would be you. This can be a tremendously transformative time for you on a lot of levels, but it is ultimately going to be people. It's going to be those friendships. It's going to be your connections with others that are going to be part of the fuel that helps you to have that catalyst towards meaningful change. This full moon is happening in a part of the sky that is considered your house in the sky. And so it is a part of the sky that ultimately for you is home. It's a part of the sky for you that a lot of how it is that if you have the sun in Aquarius, this is where you become the best of you. This is where you come to uncover who it is that's going to allow you to be in terms of what characteristics you need to show, who it is that you are becoming that allows you to feel like you're really becoming yourself. I hope that's clear. But it's about you becoming into your own power, you coming into your light, you feeling more centered, you feeling more certain of who you are. That's part of what this full moon can bring. If you are somebody with the moon in Aquarius, you're watching this for your moon sign, then this is going to be a time where you come to a deeper understanding of what you need to feel at home, to really truly nourish yourself that much more deeply. That's the power of this particular full moon for you. And if you are somebody with a rising sign in Aquarius, watching this for a rising sign in Aquarius, then you are going to experience this very much in terms of your friends, in terms of your friendships. That is how this energy is most likely to play out for you. Now, given this particular full moon happening with Mars in the sky, but not doing a whole lot else, right? It's happening with Mars in the sky. And it's an energy ultimately that has a level of isolation to it and has a level of completion yet first steps. And will come to a fuller completion once we get you a month down the road, 28 and a half days down the road. So what this suggests to me is that you're having some important realizations right now of the people who've been in your life before and what role they served for you and where it is now that you are coming to understand yourself that much more deeply, and where it is now that you're ready to take action to support what you know you deserve in terms of the people who are around you. And there's another layer to this as well because of the personalness of this energy. Like I said, it's your house in the sky. There's something to be said for understanding more deeply what you truly hope and wish for in life and what maybe your contribution may be, even in terms of like humanity, right? This is something that Aquarians are very interested in, their contribution to humanity or what part they're playing in terms of overall, their overall connection, their place in the world. And are they doing something good with their life? Are they being part of the change they wish to experience? All of this is going to be highlighted for you. And I feel as I look at this, that there is some deep and meaningful shift that you are ready to make so that you can be part of the change you wish to experience in the world. And this shift ultimately will allow you to feel more clear, yes, but also lighter and stronger in the process. If there's been any place in your life where you've been carrying a lot of weight, especially emotionally, I mean that very figuratively, emotionally, if you've been carrying weight, regardless of how else it's manifested in your life, but if you feel that you've been carrying that, this is when you start to understand that and you start to release and empower yourself because you understand what really matters. You get to essentials. And there's this visual with this energy of muscle, building muscle. So if anyone can get there faster by picking up a weight, it would be you. That is a process ultimately that can help you feel that much stronger. Doing a little bit, that's what Mars is about, right? It is about the iron. And so even if it's just a 1 pound weight, even if you're doing something little, to feel a sense of connection to your own muscles, which is also very Mars as well, doing something little like that can be just the thing you need to get you back into connection with that sense of higher ideals. It kind of works in a very integrated, holistic kind of way, and especially for you this week. So that is one small spiritual practice you can partake in to help you to feel like you're using this energy very much to your advantage. But like I said, a lot of Aquarians out there are going to notice shifts and changes and clarity and empowerment coming through their friendships and understanding the friendships that were, as part of understanding what friends are going to mean to you in your future. At the very least, friends may keep you busy, might get you active as well. So getting together with a friend for a workout could also be a great use of this energy, and understanding something more deeply about yourself and where you can take action to feel that much stronger in every area of life, thanks to the time you spend with a friend. When it comes to matters of heart, matters of love, this particular week, there is that very strong energy of the ideal future that you envision for yourself, and yet home, the strength of the past, the strength of the home. If you are in an established bond, a person that you're living with, this is where you start to look at where this person fits into that ideal vision. Can you bring them on board with something that you truly desire to do, something you truly wish for, or not? And if not, if they're like, no, I got my own journey, you do what you need to do, we love each other, we're here for each other, but you got your path, I got mine. If they're like that with you, no problem, right? It's good to have that clarity. It's good to know, and that ultimately can be just the thing you need to empower you. Also, because there are some negotiations happening around home, if you have wanted to make some changes on the home front, might have felt some resistance with a partner, by the time we get to the end of the week and the very beginning of next, you start to feel that things are moving forward in a positive kind of way. This also can be a great week to sort of wrap up any home-related repairs that have been in the making. Those of you who are open to meeting someone new, look, if anybody can have a moment of passion with a friend, it might be you. But remember, it looks like it's an isolated incident. So maybe you'll get that other, the other layer, the other level of understanding, the other conversation will come a month later. But if it is, a friend that all of a sudden you find yourself feeling strong feelings for, that's fine, right? We all have feelings. But understand that not a lot with this given sky can necessarily be promised just yet. Hello, fabulous Pisces. This week we have got this super beautiful sky, an active sky at that, and this sky is highlighting a full moon at the very top of your sky, making it that much more important for you. This is highlighting a sense of fulfillment, manifestation, direction, life purpose, and for some of you out there, also career as well. If you're on the career track, this is going to be a time when you feel especially fired up, juiced up by a vision for what you could achieve. You feel like you've been given some keys that tell you, run in that direction, take this action, good things can happen as a result. Or at the very least, you will be inspired towards making a change, taking ownership for what it is that you desire to manifest, and you'll be feeling like you're running in that direction this week before the week is out. This can also be, look, I gotta be honest with you. I always will be honest with you. I'll always be direct with you. This can also be a very passionate moment with a person higher up on the ladder, a boss in particular, a person in position of authority. So keep that in mind. Now, this can manifest a few different ways, right? Obviously. This can manifest just in terms of having a heated moment. And that can be like a moment of frustration. It's possible, but again, there's an isolatedness to this. So it might be uncharacteristic, or it might just be, one of those moments. It might be you that ends up feeling very frustrated with a boss or someone higher up on the ladder. But, as I said, where it applies, it's possible for this to be passionate in a different sense, in a passionate sense, right? And so just tread carefully with that, because there is that isolation with this, because there is like what transpires at this full moon happens, and that's great. But really the full answers, the completions, the real completions don't come through until a month later. That's when it really feels like, okay, things have come full circle, or things are coming together, which is what a full moon is supposed to do. A full moon is supposed to feel like things are coming full circle. It's supposed to feel like things are coming to fruition. Things are now culminating. Things are now being illuminated, so you can make a decision. You can understand where you're going. But there's a strong sense of beginningness and heightened emotions with this. And so because of that, there may be a heightened moment. It can manifest romantically, it can manifest in terms of frustrations. There may be a heightened moment. But what it's going to mean for you in terms of your career, in terms of your sense of direction, achievement, feeling like you're moving towards your goals, what it's going to mean is not going to be realized until a month later. So do keep that in mind. If something happens, it's just in that moment, that's it. And then what happens afterwards, you won't feel like you have any kind of completion until a month later. So at least you have that level of consciousness going in. Now, those of you open to meeting someone new, this might be a very welcome, passionate moment, very possible. Could be a moment with somebody who's achieved something that you admire, that you look up to, that you want to, emulate in some way. Those of you who are in an established bond, when I look at this sky, there's a sense with this sky that you're thinking big picture, yes, but also you're talking things out. Now we've got Mercury in a part of the sky for you now that is about talking. And when Mercury goes retro, which has been going retro the last couple of weeks, there can be miscommunications. There can be saying one thing and expecting things to be a certain way and them not manifesting the way that you intended, the way that you hope. Or not being understood is a better way to say it. And that's okay, right? That happens. But this ultimately can be a chance to talk things over, talk about things more deeply, have that deeper perspective. This ultimately can be a chance now, and especially as Mercury will slow down to a standstill if we're moving forward at the very end of the week and early next week. This can be a chance to finally say the thing that you've been holding back, or finally to understand, really, is the big part of this energy. So wherever it is that maybe you've been going around in circles, or maybe you think you understand and then you realize you don't, this is where, particularly as we move towards this full moon, this is where the awareness, it clicks, oh, okay, I understand. Okay, I get you. I get what you've been meaning to say. I get what you've been trying to say. I get what it is that you have been trying to get me to understand, but I haven't been. That can very well be something that you say. This also could be something that your partner ends up saying to you as well. But for all this, ultimately communication is key, as you are realizing now. And miscommunication, the amazing thing about any kind of miscommunication is you can always find your way back to clarity. Well, thank you so much to all signs out there. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.